All right. It is a new season for the kitchen sink, otherwise known as, the 2022 winter quarter for UCSD. Man, it feels good to be back for another episode. You may be wondering why am I not on the KSDT website and why am I on here? Well, due to COVID, we're not in the studio for the first 2 weeks, and I am too lazy to figure out how to use the brand new program that we're supposed to use. I had class today, and I didn't figure any of that out yesterday. So I'm like, all right, I'm not gonna have time. So I mailed, not I didn't mail. I DM'd the person in charge and was like, hey, I ain't gonna do the show on your guys' air. I'm gonna use Twitch, and they were like, okay, it's fine. So this has been like a transition I've been wanting to do for quite a while. Um, actually have my shows be on Twitch, and then actually since I use Twitch Studio, I could just record the audio and just upload the audio to Spotify. So if this audio makes on Spotify, this is a brand new chapter. This is what I've been hoping for a while, and but because I'm not actually on KSDT, I don't have to waste my time with the radio sponsored propaganda of the week, otherwise known as the new ads. If you've been listening on KSDT, you'll know what that is, which is pretty much music we're kind of just obligated to pay to play to have our show. So because I get to skip that, and it kind of makes me just think about like the last time I've actually done a show on KZT, which like the last time was on like November 15th, and a lot has happened since then. So let me kind of just fill you in. But before I do it, I'm just giving an agenda. I'm gonna just talk about what I did over the break. We're gonna get into some sports ball. We're gonna get into our typical feel good stories of the day, the interesting story of the day, and the last sad and or upsetting story, and then we're gonna get into some UCSD Reddit hour because I'm a talentless hack and I need Reddit for my content. Partially true. And so let me just show you on my break. So on November 20th, I got to see Night Tempo, Vantage, Makras 8299, and Young Bay live at the Nobo and DTLA, otherwise known as Downtown LA. So let me tell you a bit about that. I wasn't able to get into the pre-show shop and meetup, partly because I left San Diego a bit too late to actually get there early enough to even have a chance in getting in the shop. And as such, I just left at a reasonable time before the show to get a good spot in line. To actually get to the show, I took the LA Metro Blue Line to downtown, and that made me remember why I dislike LA a lot of the time. The Metro car was completely filthy, the floors were sticky, and the smell was fairly rancid. Like, it smelled like actual piss in there. Like, it was, a little bit short of shit, but it was getting there. And where I sat, there was this lady who was singing this song. I don't remember what song it was, but every now and then she would scream "culo" as it played on the song. And now there's only one song where it's acceptable to scream "culo," and it's like "culo" por Pitbull featuring Lil Jon. That's the only song that you get over saying "culo" because it's a classic. It's a party classic. It's que tremendo culo. Like that's the only reasonable song where you could actually scream it out in public, in my opinion. But then again, I'm very biased. But that just wasn't the case. And when I actually got to downtown, the line to get into the show was already really long. There was still over an hour until the doors opened, and over 2 hours till the show even started. And the thing, so they had like this like metal fence things that kind of they have outside. That thing they wrapped around that 5 times, and it was still like going around the corner. It almost made a whole block, and that's where I was. And funny enough, when I was waiting there, I actually ran into a UCSD alumni who had also come from San Diego, which is kind of crazy. This goes to show you how small the world it truly is out here. And so and just seeing this long line was crazy for me to see. I'd been a Young Bay fan since 2016, so that was after Bay City Rollers, but before Selfish High Heels, which is when I would argue Young Bay really began to get a lot of traction. I saw him in the summer of 2017 at the Roxy in Hollywood. And, it's a pretty well-known venue in the area, but I would say a pretty small venue. Well, flash forward 4 years, and this man is, selling out the Novo, which to me as a longtime fan was awesome to see. Since 2017, I had also become a fan of other artists, of the other artists opening for Young Bay, which was the main reason I was going. I typically don't like to see artists I've already seen twice unless it's like an artist I really, really enjoy, which is like there's very few in that category. But I was like, screw it. I get five artists for like the price of like $20, which is awesome. And it was just awesome to see them all together. It was like just people I have looked up to in the like the future funk scene for quite a long time, and it was awesome. The lights and effects were just completely on point, just like really colorful and high energy to match that of like that of the crowd, which is basically dancing from start to finish. It was kind of the dance was kind of slow and here and there at first, but then after night, like in the middle of night tempo set, once he started playing Lady Sunshine, that's when like everyone was kind of dancing to that point, or like the majority of people were dancing. And then by the time Vantage hit, that's when everyone was dancing. And then no one was sitting down after that. And it was just an overall great show that kind of like lasted a bit over 3 hours. I sadly ended up like not going to the after party they were having. One, because I didn't want to pay like an extra like $25 like dollars. So I was like, I need to save money. I've been already spending a lot of money. Um, Two, because I was already hella tired, and three, my ride, my mom was already waiting for me. And because I had originally told her, hey, I'm gonna take public transit um at at like 11:45 at night, and she was like, "No, you're not. You're gonna die, and I'm picking you up." So like, agreed. So then okay. So then after okay, so then after the show, I technically had another week, like before. Okay, no, no, okay, now I remember what I'm trying to say. So pretty much, so the last show I did on here was on the 15th, and I technically had two more shows before finals week. So why didn't I show up? Well, first I was allowed to miss two shows. Now, since Thanksgiving break for me at least began on Wednesday, I asked for both Monday and Tuesday off from work. I got it. So at that point, I skipped my first show. Then I came back for exactly 1 week to San Diego, and only because I had to show up, I would show up for work. If it wasn't for that, I quite frankly wouldn't even. I would just would have stayed in LA. I wouldn't even have bothered coming back. Um, and considering I had one more show to miss, I said, "What the hell?" and I used it, effectively ending my 2021 fall quarter season of the kitchen sink. And then after that 1 week of school, where I basically turned in all my finals, as all my classes either had the finals early or were simply class projects, I literally just went back to LA and spent all of my break there. I originally was supposed to go to Guatemala with my dad, but due to passport complications, I ended up not being able to go. So just time for a quick tangent. For those of you who haven't heard of John, wait, yeah. So for just time for a quick tangent, like my these things are just running in my head right now. So for those of you who haven't heard of John Boyce, he's an amazing sports writer and just a great writer in general. Who made a video about Larry Walters. And for those of you who don't know, Larry Walters was a man who strapped a bunch of weather balloons onto a lawn chair and basically saw LA from about commercial airline flight height bars with the naked eye. Walters eventually would go on to commit suicide a couple of years later, leaving nothing behind. But what stuck for me from that video is the like overarching theme that when a man has a desire to do something, every inch in his body will itch until that desire is met, and from there, who knows? Once that desire is reached. And I've always had the desire to do a cross country road trip. It's basically been a dream for as long as I can remember. And sometimes that like desire to do that cross country road trip ranges in distance. Sometimes it's going to the East Coast. Sometimes it's just going to the Midwest. Other times just going up to Washington and whatnot. And I came to the conclusion that I was gonna do it. If I couldn't have Guatemala, if I couldn't go because of like these passport issues, I was at least going to go on a trip. With me driving, no exceptions. And given the time frame that I was like looking at first I was like, all right, let's go to Seattle. But there were some logistical issues. My grandma's birthday fell in the middle of the week, so I asked her, hey, when do you want you to celebrate your birthday? Either that day, which is the middle week, which would have given me more than enough time, or 3 days after on the weekend. He said 3 days after on the weekend, so I was like, okay, fine, we'll do that. So that kind of like made the days a little bit more complicated. And Christmas was like literally like the week after that, so I was like, okay, uh, you know, logistically, it wouldn't really make much sense for me to go all the way to Seattle. That'd be just too much driving, too short of time for me to actually get to enjoy anything. So I decided I would go to the Bay Area. So I made some last minute arrangements with a friend of mine to let me crash at his place with his family, and I got in my 1998 BMW Z3 and went on my way at around like 5 a.m. Um, this trip was kind of an impulsive trip. I had nothing planned prior, and everything, all the plans I did make were just very like on the spot. And so I made a stop along the way to Fillmore where I met up with a good friend of mine. Her birthday is next week, so there's that. She really is a great friend. We met on Hinge of all places and just stayed friends and united by a common interest of baseball and general things indie. And from there, I continued my journey to the Bay. The first 2 hours of my trip were all clear sailing, but I eventually reached a wall of fog that just lasted for the other 3 hours of my trip. And I had never driven in fog before. Hell, like I was like, I'm scared to drive in the rain. Like I've like hydroplaned in the rain before, and that's never fun. However, both times that I hydroplaned in the rain in LA, in my mind, I'm like, oh shit, I'm basically drifting, and I'm like fucking like I hear like the just initial D music in the background instead of like, oh shit, I could possibly die. But both the times were pretty fun. Even though they were fun, I was still kind of like traumatized by those two instances of hydroplaning. So it's like if I'm scared to drive in the rain, when I can see well, most of the time you could see a little bit. Now imagine like not being able to see at all. So it's like all right, but we got through it. It wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. And so then when I actually got there, I saw No Way Home with my friend and his family. And just to go on a quick the side tangent, spoilers for anyone who's listening to this live, and if you listen to us on Spotify, just skip ahead a bit. You probably won't be missing much. I really did. It was a pretty damn good movie. I absolutely enjoyed that they made Holland's Spider-Man flawed in this movie. He gave into his human desires, and then having Toby Spider-Man as like a mentor, having gone through a similar situation, and instead of like brushing him off, as some type of like subversion, Tom actually listens to him, which might sound simple enough, but given Disney's like track record of movies where the main character can do no wrong, Star Wars sequels, Captain Marvel, it was really refreshing to see. I also really enjoyed the fact that Garfield's Spider-Man got his redemption arc. Andrew really deserves it considering that he is in reality a pretty good actor. So that was like the first day I was there, so I got to see Spider-Man, and I generally enjoyed it. I typically keep a rule for myself where I only consume like one or two Disney products a year, and this was my second one. The first one was Encanto because like my mom wanted to see it. Without Encanto was okay. As a Latino, it's like you know the feelings I have for Coco, the feelings I have for Encanto, I'm just very indifferent about it, but it was okay. But Spider-Man was really good though. And so then that was the first day I got there. The next day, I I went to like actual like San Francisco, because where I was staying was this area called Tracy, which is like an hour east of San Francisco. So I had to drive like an hour, 45 minutes west to this place called like Dublin, Pleasanton, and then take a train from there in order to actually get to where I want to go. And so I basically ended up going to this place called Golden Gate Park, and there they had like this little outdoor roller skating rink, which is literally just smooth concrete with like a white line, white like oval line, and I was literally just roller skating there the majority of the day. And which leads me to like another side tangent. Roller skating is something I got into over the break. It really all began when I went on a double date to an ice skating rink, and I kind of got the hang of it. It's and for some reason that like exhilarating feeling of like gliding as I shift my legs and weight side to side just never went away. Like there was days where it's like I would just like be laying in bed and I could just feel my legs go into the motion of like roller skating. Like my brain was convincing me that I was like skating. I guess like in this case, I was like, it'd be on ice, and so I just knew I needed more of that sensation. Like I needed more of that. I wanted to feel that sensation of like just skating. There's nothing else like it. And I know I sound like an addict right now. Sorry, mom. But so I bought myself some skates. No, so I brought out some skates that I bought in high school for like $40. They're like really cheap. They're like Chicago brand skates. They're known for being like really really cheap. And another quick side tangent about those. If they're your first roller skates, strictly use them for like roller skating rinks. Don't take them out on the street. It's a very painful time. They're just not made for that. And I didn't know it at the time. I found out the hard way, but I mean, there's even then the people who usually like I've seen reviews on them where they use them in the streets. So that's why I use them on the street. They're not very good for street skating. So if you're looking to do street skating, don't even bother. I'm pretty sure they would have given up anyways if I take them to the rink, but it is what it is. So I brought them out, you know, and last time I used them, I had only used them once because I like fell and I'm like, ha, never doing this again. This is too hard. So here they are. I took them out. I was skating again, and I was getting the hang of it because I had taken the concepts that I had learned while ice skating, which I kind of just learned on the spot, and just applied them to roller skating. And I'm like, hey, this is like really fun and it's kind of easy, easier than well, not easy, but easier than I remembered. But eventually those skates just kind of just gave up on me. Like the actual truck of the skate was just like, yeah, can't deal with this, and it just got really bad. And so eventually I just ended up buying these like rainbow colored maxi skates, not sponsored by the way. That just screams like 70s, like they're very for lack of a better word, very flamboyant, which is I really enjoy about them. I I dig them. And so I've been skating really often for the past couple of weeks now, and I keep getting better. Can go relatively fast, like at like the snap of my fingers. I know how to like stop using my stopper, how to stop with the side of my wheels. I could jump stop, which is like where you jump and then you turn around and then go on your stoppers. I could do that like slower speeds. If I do it like any like fast, if I do it at high speeds, that's where like I eat crap most of the time. Um, I'm starting to learn how to skate backwards now. So that now, like once I learn how to skate backwards and how to transition my motion from like forward to backward while keeping that momentum, I'm pretty sure I could like start doing like more complicated things. But I like where I'm heading now, so it's fun. If you roller skate, keep roller skating. If you never roller skated before, I highly recommend it. It's a pretty good workout, especially if you do something that's called like sticky skating, which is where you don't pick up your skates. Really works out your legs. So, oh yeah, also forgot. I know how to like jump while skating, and then to like kind of keep skating. It's all fun, and I can do like a bunch of twirls now, which is always fun too. I feel like I'm like it's so stupid. I feel like I'm on Disney on Ice. When they do like the final like piece or like motion of like the song, or just go like they do like a really quick twirl and then they do like they tuck in their hand or something or put it up in the air. I feel like I'm on Disney on Ice, but I don't think I'll ever get to that point. But it's a pretty good feeling. Um, and okay, so like back to the Bay Area. So I skated there and then I had lunch at a place called Velo Rogue Cafe, which had kind of a unique theme. It was classic French bicycling. So it had like a bunch of like classic Tour de France posters that had like miniature bike wall decor. It was really like I've never like I've been to like some French places. I've been to France, and that's like the first time I've ever seen anything like that where they like emphasized French bike culture. So I'm like, huh, it's interesting, interesting concept. And there I had a LGBT, as I like to say, Lakin. Well, technically it's like it should be an A, but I say lettuce, guacamole, bacon, and tomato. LGBT for short, and a cafe au lait, which were both pretty good. I'm not sponsored. Um, it was like this like really small cafe. I where I sat they didn't have any like electrical plugs. So I had to like ask them if I could borrow the electrical plug over there, and I was like almost on the verge of asking them if I could sit with them and on their table and have lunch with them. But I'm like, we're in a pandemic, and that'd just be like too awkward. I'm not. This guy's obviously working too while eating, so it's like I don't want to bother him. So I'm just gonna watch my phone from afar. um, and then after that, I kind of just skated some more. It was really interesting because like when I first got to the skate park, there wasn't really anybody there. I was kind of the only one, so I was just like there for a bit, and I got hungry. And then but as I was getting hungry, I went to the other parts of the park, saw that. With I think some of the museums were closed on that Monday, so it was like I couldn't really go inside. But it reminded me a lot of Balboa Park here in San Diego, where they have kind of like that like I wouldn't it's like here's like more like Spanish architecture, but there they had some of that, and it's like in the museums and the water fountain was really nice. I kind of prefer Balboa Park in terms of like the overall architecture and number of museums and things to do there. You know, then again, I'm biased because I live here. I wouldn't say there's kind of like anything like that here in LA unless you count like Exposition Park, but you know, Exposition Park is Exposition Park. Um, I guess you have like the Rose Garden there. I've been there like once. It's pretty cool. Um, yeah, there's never been once where I was like, oh, let's go to Exposition Park. But there have been times where I'm like, oh, let's go to Balboa Park. I'm totally not turning my back on LA. Um, and so then I did that, and then I came. So when I did come back, there's a lot more people skating, and it was actually kind of fun because like it was like if it felt more lively. People brought some music there, and everyone was just all skating, and it just felt good. Like having the other people there and their energy and watching them skate was fun. So then that was on the Monday, and the Tuesday, the next day. Um, what I don't think I really did anything that day. I just had lunch with the friend I was staying with, and also like another friend who was like another friend of ours who was in the area. So we had lunch with them. I think it's like Papa Herbs. Yeah, they're Papa Herbs. They're seasick fries, not sponsored. They're pretty good. And then the day after that, on the last day, which is the last day before I left back to LA for Christmas, I went to Berkeley with the friend I was staying with, and we met up with my housemate who had gone back home for the break. And just let me say, although I really despise the majority of people who attend UC Berkeley for how stuck up they are, just go to the Reddit, you'll see what I'm talking about. I really liked the campus. Like, it just felt like the architecture had like a consistent personality of like intellectualism. You just feel smarter being there, honestly, because just the architecture like evokes that feeling from you, and it's like just you know. I feel like there's like very few universities I've been to that feel like that. I think maybe UCLA comes in a close second because UCLA has like this like consistent architectural style where it's like I just feel like UCSD doesn't have that. UCSD as a whole just feels very disjointed, and that's kind of why I don't feel like it's nice. Because like you'll go to one part of UCSD, and it's like like concrete. It's like concrete brutalism, architectural style, and then you go to this like other part where it's like all glass, and it's like then you go to this other part where it feels like it's like mixture of like glass, metal, and then so you go to another part where it's like more like which is more like concrete brutalism, and it's like there's just no, and there's more other part where it's like actual like modern, like still a lot of glass, but like less so glass. If that makes any sense, and it's all just feels very disjointed. Obviously, like each part of the campus because there's like different colleges, it's made up of like different colleges. It's supposed to have like its own ideology, and that ideology like, influences the architecture. But I feel like that comes at the cost of like a consistent uniting theme that I thought UC Berkeley had, and that's why I really enjoyed it. And I just feel like like Berkeley in general is made for that gloomy type of weather. I feel like the weather there, although it's like raining cloudy and gray, it really went with the city. Like that city was built for that. Like just like how LA and San Diego are built for sunshine, that city is built for that type of weather. It's like LA feels disgusting when it rains. San Diego, although it's at least my part of San Diego in La Jolla does not, it doesn't feel as disgusting in the rain. It just the rain just still very feels very out of place when you go to San Diego. Like it just doesn't belong. Like San Diego was made for sunshine. Um, but that place, like it felt beautiful in the rain. Like oh well, beautiful might be an overstatement, but it was very aesthetically pleasing. Yeah, there you go. That's the term I'm looking for. Aesthetically pleasing. Um, and to my surprise, I did not find any shit or needles on the ground in either San Francisco or Berkeley. And that's like the running gag I'm always hearing about. That there's like shit and needles all over the ground. I've seen the pictures. Like on the internet that are supposedly taken in the Bay Area, and I've ran into people taking shits more often in LA than I did in San Francisco or Berkeley. So I mean, I don't know. Does that say more about LA than if anything? Who knows? Because there's parts of LA I definitely am very disgusted by. But I never felt grossed out by San Francisco. I mean, Oakland felt more like I was at home. To be honest, I'm like, oh yeah, this is basically just Compton, but if it had a bay. I was like, this is basically like Skid Row was near the ocean, which I mean isn't far off from Dockweiler, but it's basically Dockweiler. It's just like, you know, if you ever go to LA, you have like Santa Monica, which is basically still a shithole. I despise Santa Monica, and you have Venice, which is like it gets so much traction as well. And it's like I don't know if people see in Venice, but they got Dockweiler. That's the hood beach. So it's basically as if like people like it's basically if Compton moved to Dockweiler. It's the best way I could describe it. Like in terms of like the hood culture, but if they moved all the homeless people from Skid Row into there, that's pretty much the best way to describe it. If you've never been to Oakland and you're from LA, it's the best way I could describe it. Um, I got to see the Coliseum and one of the stops. Um, you know, I'm pretty sure people it wasn't as like awe-inspiring as I think a stadium should be. Um, for me, a proper stadium leaves you in awe. Like for me, whenever I'm outside Dodger Stadium, no matter how many times I go, it's still awe-inspiring. Like it doesn't feel real. My friend, the one who I went to go visit in Fillmore, she could probably agree with me on this. She had recently gone to her first baseball game, like some months ago, when the season was still on, and she said that she felt like she was in Disneyland, and that's like that feeling of like that mystical feeling of going to Disneyland is how I would describe how I feel at Dodger Stadium. Even from the outside, I still feel like I'm in a mystical world, even when I'm outside Dodger Stadium. But like, I didn't have that feeling when looking at the Oakland Coliseum. There wasn't any like mysticalness about it. It just felt like big concrete slabs, which is I mean partially true. I mean that's the multi-purpose stadium. It's from the 70s. It's not supposed to be pretty. It's supposed to be functional reform. But even then, it's like it doesn't function very well as a stadium. But that was Oakland. I mean I didn't actually like stop in Oakland. I just was there as a passerby with the BART, which don't get me started on the BART. The BART doesn't makes no fucking sense. So I've only ever used three public transits in my life: LA Metro, the Washington D.C. Metro, and BART. And technically, well, three American. I've used five total. I've also used the French and the British one, the UK Underground. The UK Underground, I didn't really understand it either. It was hella expensive, from what I remember. And then the French one I actually kind of liked, even though it's like a whole side tangent. Like the British Metro, although easier to understand, is a lot more expensive than the French one. The French one is a lot harder to understand in terms of the lines. Their Metro lines are like very like it's kind of hard if you're like new there, it's very hard to understand. However, I remember it being a lot cheaper, and it's like the cards also had a lot of personality. It's like they wouldn't open for you; you had to open them up, which is like, you know, it's like sucks if you like if you're late. But back to the U.S. one. So the BART has like a similar system to like the DC train where they charge you per distance. When I had first gone to DC, I didn't know that, and I thought it was like LA where you tap in and they charge you there and say, oh, you get to go however long you want. And so the first time I used it, I was just trying to take pictures, and so I take my pictures at the DuPont station. I'm trying to leave, and it's not letting me tap out. So I'm like, okay, I'll just hop the turnstile, which I did, and I didn't go anywhere. So I was like, why would I be charged anything? Here at the BART, however, Bay Area Rapid Transit, it's like they also use the distance, right? So having learned my lesson from DC, I'm like, okay, I read how much it would charge me. I'm like, okay, fine. It would charge me like close to $9, like one way. And I was like more like seven, and I'd have to take a bus. So it was like, but still $9 one way. So it's like, okay, fine, whatever. I had driven to that station, the nearest station, and I was trying to figure out how to pay for parking. I saw that the parking stalls, the parking payment was inside the station. So it's like, okay, there's only one way for me to get there, and that's for me to already have like tapped in. I tap in. There's no indication in the parking payment that it's cash only. It's like card. It's only cash. So it's like they don't accept card at all, which doesn't make sense because you could pay for your parking, or you could pay for the like what they call a clipper card, which if you're from LA is their version of a tap card with like credit and debit. So it's like, why can I not pay for my parking with credit and debit? That just doesn't make any sense to me. So I was like, okay. So I mean, I asked the dude, hey, can you only pay with for parking with cash? He was like, from there he was already giving me an attitude, and he was like, yeah, only with cash. I'm like, do you have cash on you? I'll like Venmo it to you or cash app it to you. Still with an attitude. I don't care. I don't carry cash on me. So I was like, okay. And at the station, there's no indication of like side exits besides like the turnstiles where you would tap out. And so I thought it was gonna be like DC, where if you didn't travel anywhere, you try to tap out, it won't let you out. So I was like, okay, fine. I would just have to hop the turnstiles like last time. However, this one let me through. But then I see on the little screen they charged me $7, and I'm like, I was trying to figure out my parking situation first, and then so I'm like, okay, I didn't have much time to think about it. I just thought that I was charged $7 of like the 20 I'd put in, and I'm like, dude, I'll figure this out later. And then so I was asking people around if they had like $3 on them, and I would just pay them back to Venmo or Cash App, or if they could just give it to me, that'd be even better. They were like, no, no, no. But this third guy, he said, no, but you could pay through the BART app. At which point, like, I was already like, at that point I was already getting heated. I'm like, okay, so this dude who works for the BART, who I asked first if you only had to use cash and said yes, never once indicated to me that there's a goddamn app where you could pay for the parking. And mind you, I had my Los Angeles Dodgers hat on, so it's obvious I'm not from there. Like, and it's not like a clean LA hat, so you just can't say like, oh, he's just wearing it to where he's not actually from LA. No, I'm from LA. That shit's dirty. That shit's seen shit. That shit's like, been where it's not supposed to be. That shit's dirty. Dirty. Like, disgustingly dirty. So it's used. So it's like, I was already mad. I'm like, okay, this dude who works here, who works for the transportation company, didn't even tell me about this app. So I tried downloading it, but for some reason my internet wasn't working anywhere near the station. So I had to walk pretty much almost back to my car to get good reception to be able to download the app. Then it made me like put in all this damn information, all about the card I was using, but of my actual car, and then I had to put in there's like numbers on the back of the clipper card that I had to input. So I'm like, oh my god, just let me pay for parking. I got to pay for parking, and when I went back, that's when it tapped me in again, and that's when I told the guy, hey, I tapped out last time, and I didn't think it would charge me because I didn't go anywhere, but it charged me $7. And the guy with the same attitude as before, but even I think it wasn't even the same. It was like nastier than before. He's like, and then why would you tap out? And I'm like, because I'm not from here. I don't. Why would I know that? There's not even any signs indicating that there's an like that there's a charge for that, or like he's like, why don't you take the side exits? I'm like, I'm looking at the side exits. I'm like, because those say service equipment exits. Those aren't even like actual exits. Like that's pretty much like if you go to like LA Metro, and there's like then the guards are there and they see you there and you take the emergency exit instead of paying. That's pretty much like you doing that. Had I taken those exits, you would have like stopped me anyway. So it's like I'm like, ugh. And then at that point, that's kind of just when I it was just anyway. Asked if there was any way I could get a refund. He was like, no, still with like this nasty attitude instead of like trying to help me. And then, you know, that's kind of I snapped. I rarely ever snap at service workers because like I'm technically right now in the service industry. I help people with their parking issues at my school, and so I know what it's like when people get mad at you, and I don't want other people to experience that. And just even before they're just out of common courtesy, just like be nice to these people. They're trying to help you, but it's like this dude was not helping me from the jump, and so at that point I just fucking lost it, and I just like I went off at him, and it wasn't until I reached the escalators where he decided to come out of like the little like office area that's near the turnstiles. He came out, he opened the door, and he was like, "Fuck you, man." And I'm like, "Okay, you had to wait till like I was up the escalator for free to tell me that." Okay, I'm like, "All right, have a nice day, man, for real." And that's the story of my time using the BART. I kind of forgot how we got to this point, except there's if there's anything I know for a fact is the BART is complete trash. And I guess so. There's like another thing I wanted to mention. There was like before I actually left Berkeley, which we had to use the BART to get there. I went to a record store, or several record stores there, and I got several records. So I visited one that was called Half Off Books. Oh, it's like books, but they also sell records there. Then I went to Rasputin Records, and then went to Amoeba. I personally really preferred Rasputin. Just like I feel like the variety they had and like for their price points were like really really good in comparison to Amoeba. Amoeba has like a really great variety, but it was just a lot more expensive compared to Rasputin. But here's my haul. So from Half Off Books, I got Queen's News of the World for $25. And I also got Janis Joplin's Pearl for $25. And then from Rasputin, I got, let me see here. So I got a Neil Diamond record, Taproot manuscript. The reason why I got that one is because that's Cracklin' Rosie. I got Glenn Campbell's Galveston. I got that for like $2 to add that to my Glenn Campbell collection. I also got America's Holiday album for like $3 because I like America and it has Tin Man on there. Good find. I got John Denver's Best for $3, and I also got the Beach Boys album for like $8. Surfing USA for $8, and then from Amoeba, I got Rocky Mountain High album by John Denver for I think it was like $1.10. Um, Speaking of which, that was the only place I've seen in person that has Dave Bixby's Ode to Quetzalcoatl. But it was worth $50. And it's like had I not spent the $50 that I spent on Queen and Janis Joplin, I would have bought that. It's like that is, in my opinion, one of the best albums of all time. And it's super rare because that's like the only album Dave Bixby has like released, and he didn't even debut it until like a couple years ago. So highly recommend that album if you haven't listened to it. So then after all that, after like coming back from Berkeley, um, I just ended up driving back to LA. It was all smooth sailing until the last hour, where God just decided to let it pour so hard over LA. I literally couldn't see diddly squat. Nonetheless, I was able to see another good friend of mine in the Glendale area. We went to this place called Wild Oak Cafe. The atmosphere was amazing. Like, and it even more so in the rain. It had like this rustic feeling, and I feel like they like rent like, the actual place where the business is. I could tell it was like an old gas station just by how the roof looked. Like the roof just like looked like those like old 19 like 70s like 1950 to 70s like 76 gas stations where the roof is kind of like it's not square, it's not round, it's like a weird like polygon shape and it's kind of at an angle. It was like that. And it was kind of the actual like area where the kitchen was, which is like small. It's like a convenience store size, and they had like two old like cars parked outside. One of them was like from like maybe the 19th century, and the other one was from like early like 30s and 40s. Wild Oak Cafe, not sponsored, because the atmosphere was amazing, but the food wasn't that good. It was. I would rather like eat at McDonald's over that place, to be honest. And then I made it back on time for Christmas Day the next day. And then I had New Year's with my girlfriend, who was also amazing, if I haven't mentioned that. And now I'm here suffering on my first day of school, which we'll get to later. But now time for some sports ball, because I've been talking about my trip for too long. Now time to get to the actual meat and potatoes of the show. So we got some sports ball. So I just want to touch upon the Rams. What kind of Matthew Stafford are we getting in the playoffs? I personally feel that we're getting a Matthew Stafford who's like extremely liable. Like, how can you be this volatile and he's like extremely volatile and he's like supposed to be like the man of the town. So when he played against the Bucks, he threw four touchdowns, zero picks, and had a QB rating of like 134, which is like really good. It's like you're going up against Tom Brady and company. And then last week, this or the week before this week, he went up against the Vikings. We won that game, but he only threw one touchdown and he threw three interceptions for a passer rating of 46.8, which I think is like among his lowest passer ratings. And in this most recent game, which was against the Ravens, he went even when two touchdowns, two interceptions, passer rating of 96. Not the worst thing in the world. Um, but it's like, how do you go from absolutely smashing Tom Brady and company to struggling with like low tier playoff teams? I feel like Stafford is like the type of guy like Detroit like sort of needs. Good enough to make a struggling team function, but not good enough to be like the man, like the one, like the franchise quarterback, like in a good team, not like the Rams. I don't think the Rams. Like, I don't think he could do worse than Jared Goff did, but I don't think he's going to like take the Rams to the Super Bowl. Himself. Like Matthew Stafford has like plenty of good weapons around him. He has like like a good running back team. He has a good wide receiving team and a great defense. So I think that's kind of what's going to propel us. He's just like a cog in the machine as of right now. If he doesn't improve, so that's football. I don't really care about any of the other teams. I guess like the AFC playoffs seeding has been kind of horrendous. The AFC North, what the hell is going on? This is hard to tell what's going on. Like they just keep changing like every single week. The Browns are, I think they're out, mathematically out. It's like finally, they were in the hunt for so long. It's like please just take them out their misery. We all know they're not gonna make it. Um, who else? I think the Eagles made it somehow. I mean, I don't. The fact that they played the Washington football team, they knocked them out, I think, and then now the Eagles are actually in it. Like the fact that the Washington football team, otherwise known as redacted, were even in the hunt for that long is just surprising. The NFC was very top heavy. The good teams made it, and everyone like just fighting at the bottom. But the AFC was like everyone was actually fighting to even just you know everyone was fighting, so everyone kind of had a chance. Um, so let's get into some baseball and recent news. Besides the lockout, I'm not gonna get too much of the lockout, so I want to wait to see what happens for that before I cover it. Apparently, the universal DH is coming to the MLB next in 2022. Um, so which means for those of you who don't watch baseball, a DH is called a designated hitter, designated designated hitter. It's commonplace in the AL League or American League, which is one half of the MLB. So pretty much what it is instead of the pitcher hitting, someone hits for the pitcher. So pretty much like the pitcher never sees the batter's box. However, in the NL, the other half of the MLB, the National League, the pitcher does hit. And what the universal DH will do is that the NL will adopt it, and everyone's going to have a DH now. And I'm kind of opposed to the DH. I don't think that's how baseball is meant to be played. I feel like it takes away a lot of strategy. When you have the pitcher hitting, it's like it takes away like the art of bunting. And I know people moan and groan at the thought of bunting, but bunting is truly an offensive tool. It's an offensive art that should always be in your arsenal to keep defenses on their toes. Someone throws a shift at you, you hit them with a good bunt. And there's obviously pitchers who rake, like Madison Bumgarner in his heyday. Clayton Kershaw gets a good hit here and there. Zach Greinke, those kind of guys. And I feel like just like it takes away the opportunity to see them hit because baseball is all about unexpected heroes, and also plus also takes out like the opportunity for like pinch hitters. It's like you know well, if let's say you're in the bottom of the eighth, your pitcher's already like over 100 pitches in, and it's like if he's coming up to bat, you don't want him to pitch the next inning. You already have someone in the pen, so it's like okay, we'll take him out, put in a pinch hitter. So it also takes away that role as well. And I guess also in the case where it's like if you do let your pitcher hit and he gets a hit, it takes away like partially the pinch runner because I mean obviously you're always gonna have like those people that are like they're hitters but they're kind of slow on the base pads, and so it's gonna take away that you know I mean you're always gonna have the people who are kind of slow on the base pads, and so you want to put in a pinch runner, but I feel like that's kind of gonna partially gonna go away with the addition of a universal DH. So it's my opinion. It takes away a lot of strategy. Um, it's just my thoughts on it. Is it good for like offense? Yeah, I mean, of course, it's great for offense. Pitchers, at least in the NL, naturally, are not known for hitting, so the DH is gonna alleviate that a little bit. Maybe some more home runs, make baseball a little bit more exciting. But I'm kind of a purist. I like to see my pitchers, try at least. So that's that. Um, Time for some, the other meat and potatoes to show the feel good story of the day. So reminder of these, stories. I pick these stories out at random based on the headline, and then I read them on the spot. So I'm going into this blind. So Connecticut family hands out oranges to driver stuck in Virginia winter storm. So this is from Eyewitness News 3. I think this is from Connecticut. So, a nightmare commute for drivers in Virginia was brightened by a couple from Connecticut. Senator Tom Kean of Virginia said he was stuck in traffic for 19 hours on his way to Washington, D.C. He and a number of other people were the victims of a severe winter storm. The Virginia Department of Transportation said the storm created snowy and icy conditions. Kean said his drive usually takes him about 2 hours. He started at around 1 p.m. on Monday. He wasn't alone in being trapped. Drivers were stuck on portions of a 50-mile stretch of Interstate 95 in the Fredericksburg, Virginia area between Richmond and Washington, D.C. Quote, I started my normal 2-hour drive to D.C. at 1 p.m. Monday, end quote. Kane posted to Twitter, quote, 19 hours later, I'm still not near the capital, end quote. At some point during the wait, the center said a Connecticut family that was returning from Florida found him and the others, and quote, a Connecticut family returning in a packed car from Florida walked by in the middle of the night, handing out oranges as we were stopped for hours on the I-95. Kane said, bless them. It's unclear who the family was. However, in addition to getting recognition from Kane, Governor Ned Lamont also took notice. Quote, Connecticut values extend well beyond our state's borders. Lamont responded on Twitter. This family's generosity meant much more than just a snack. It's a family reminder that we're all in this together. It's a feel-good story today. It's always great to see, a moment of, adversity and how it brings people together. I think the part I found funny is that they were coming up from Florida and they have oranges. Doesn't get any more Florida than that. Um, but it's also there's the image of the orange itself. You're like stuck in this snowy tundra. It's all white. It's possibly like all gloomy outside too. And you have like this like little ball of sunshine. Great story. Makes you feel good. It gives you hope. You know, and it makes you want to see where humanity goes, especially at the beginning of this year. If people have like this much good in their heart, we're still okay as a society. So, time for the interesting story of the day. This one's neither good or upsetting. I just found it interesting. So the headline is Baby Alligator Iguana Mysterious Creature Found on Roof of Cincinnati Retirement Community. This is from WLWT 5 NBC, which is from Ohio. So, management of a Cincinnati senior center and firefighters are scratching their heads Monday evening after a mysterious creature was found on the top of a 16-story building. Management with the Kenwood by Senior Star, located in Madisonville, went with fire crews to check out an unrelated alarm near the roof. Firefighters think it's a baby alligator that somehow ended up atop the building. Some speculate it could be an iguana or another type of reptile. And I'm looking at the pictures here. Sorry, I can't I would share my screen, but I don't have like much else time. I still have some other stuff I want to get through. But I'm looking at it. It's like it does kind of look like a baby alligator, cause like the scales on the stomach, or is what I would assume a baby alligator looks like. But the arms look more iguana-ish. It's the way they bend. Like, it's not like a little, like the arms are too skinny to be like alligator arms, at least. But let me continue reading. Um, we're told the creature was still warm, not frozen, when they found it, and it was unresponsive. Whether it is, it caught WLWT's eye, and we're looking to figure out what it is. We may never know how it got up there in the first place. Interesting story. Time for some speculation. If I had to guess, probably some person flushed it down the toilet or something, and it probably made its way out the sewer, and someone probably just threw it on top. That's like the only real explanation I could come up with that. Um, I mean, it's a pretty long thing. It's like almost 6 inches in length. So I mean, it must have been a baby at first, and it's since someone has ended up throwing it on the roof, or maybe it's like one of those things where it's like I'm not sure. Maybe they have like some sort of sewer system on the roof or something, and maybe like in connection to that sewer theory, it's probably made its way out of there on top of the roof, and just kind of ended up staying there. If in case you heard noise, that's my roommate leaving right now. But yeah, um, interesting story. We got alligators on roofs. What will 2022 bring us next? And our sad and or upsetting story of the day, we got a viewer called to criticize a TV anchor in Missouri over being, quote, very Asian. So a news anchor, and this is from CNN, a news anchor in Missouri was deeply hurt when a viewer criticized her for being, quote, very Asian, both in hours. Asian Americans across the country stood up for her. Last week, an unidentified woman called CNN affiliate KSDK in St. Louis, Missouri, to complain that Michelle Lee, an anchor and reporter at the station, mentioned her choice of New Year's meal during a segment on food traditions for the holiday. The 42-year-old anchor had said at the end of the segment that she ate dumpling soup and explained that it is what a lot of Korean people do. Her comments prompted a viewer to call a station and leave a minute-long message Lee described as racist. And I think this is the message. Quote, "Hi, this evening your Asian anchor mentioned something about being Asian and Asian people eat dumplings on New Year's Day. And I kind of take offense to that because what if one of your white anchors said, well, white people eat this on New Year's Day? I don't think it was very appropriate that she said that, and she was being very Asian. I don't know. She can keep her Korean to herself," end quote, the caller said on the voice message. Quote, "Alright, sorry, it was annoying because if a white person would say that, they would get fired." in parentheses chuckles. So say something about what white people eat. All right, thank you. The caller added. Um, the voicemail was initially heard by one of Lee's colleagues who was floored by it and quickly shared it with Lee, the anchor told CNN. When Lee heard it, she was shocked and felt so hurt. She cried and went to bed feeling down. She said Monday during her station's newscast, "Quote: That night, my husband gave me a really big hug. Gave me a really big long hug because he knows what 42 years in his body. He knows that 42 years in this body has absorbed 42 years of racism, discrimination, and at times actual violence. And to think some people lose their lives simply because of a racist is annoyed that they exist." Lee said on Monday. Um, and this like kind of just goes on. And I'm kind of running out of time, but pretty much when I saw the headline, I was like, dude, how are people? Oh, why are people like this? Of course, it was in Missouri of all places. Um, but then this like my actual like first time like reading the actual message and like what prompted it. And it's like, dude, she just she just said she ate dumpling soup. It's like, are you like how mad do you have to be to like go out of your way to kind of like ruin someone's like literally like almost like barely like the second day when was this posted? Like I was like this is posted today, but basically like I would assume she heard this message like the day after New Year's probably. Like literally the second day into 2022, they go out of your way to say something like this. It's like make it about like yourself. It's like, uh, you know, this is someone who eats mayo sandwiches and calls that shit spicy. It's like just no other real way to put it. It's like this just kind of an upsetting story. You know, be just be proud of your culture, guys. That's all I could say. Don't let anyone tell you your culture is too weird or it just doesn't fit a certain norm. Be happy from where you're from. It'll take you a long way. And just we only got three. Well, I got 3 minutes left into I reached an hour. Just that, which is what I try to keep my shows under. And kind of the last topic I want to touch about, which I typically do in a segment called UCSD Hour, is online classes and the future of this quarter. So we are currently doing the first 2 weeks of school online. We're originally hybrid slash in person, but now we've gone complete online for the first 2 weeks, and everyone's just kind of losing their minds. We're all like, "Oh, we're all gonna go back online. We're all gonna go back online," which I personally believe to be the case. I think we are gonna maybe go back online eventually, but I was just thinking about the future of this quarter. What are the odds that we go back online? And I think recently, I think today, COVID hit the millions of cases, like however millions of cases, and I really just do not have hope for this quarter. I definitely think this quarter is probably going to be online, and there's just kind of nothing I can do about it. And what frustrates me most is not the fact that we're going online, but just the fact that, like, how the university just kind of like is handling it all. Just keeping students on edge. Students who have to figure out where the hell they're gonna live. The students who did already pay for housing, had to be online. It's really, excuse me. It's really what frustrates me the most about this whole situation, and I just wish which is either just confirm it or not. Just don't make it just 2 weeks if you're to be as like a precursor into like easing us into telling us that you're gonna make it fully online. Just make it all online or don't, and let's see. Instead of like just like keep the space of limbo where some people like don't know whether to come or not. But this is a quick take. I've reached all the time I have for today. I hope everyone had a good show. Hearing what I did over break, a little bit of sports ball, and some of the interesting stories. It's good to be back for another season for episode 1 for today. I hope to see everyone around, and since you're listening on Twitch, if you're not following, hit that follow button, and you'll soon be listening to this on Spotify. So I'll be posting that on my social medias. You can find my social medias at the period kitchen period sink period KZT on Instagram. And I'll see y'all around. Peace.